No matter if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mindell. The Illegal Curve post-game show starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. For all those joining us live this evening on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, we say good evening, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show with Dave Manouk. I'm your host, Drew Mindell, and for the lot of this losing streak, I've been willing to give the Winnipeg Jets the benefit of the doubt. You play good hockey like we've seen, good sustainable hockey like we've seen, and you've earned the benefit of the doubt. Tonight, after how they started the game, after how they played that first period, keeping in mind that they've lost 4 in a row and you want to stop your slide, I'm not sure I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt anymore. They really are using up a lot of that benefit of the doubt in the midst of this slump, because you don't want to lose 4 in a row. It happens. Okay. How do you respond so you don't lose 5 in a row? And the response that you saw in the first period of today's game, to me, was unacceptable, Dave. You can't come out against a Flyers team that prior to Tuesday had been struggling. Mm-hmm. They won in Florida on Tuesday. You're the Jets. You're the more desperate of the two hockey teams. You should be the more desperate of the two hockey teams. And that response, basically the game's over after 20 minutes because of how poorly the Jets played. To me, that's getting to be closer to a sign of something is not right in Mudville than something you can keep shoving under the rug and saying everything is fine. Yeah. My hand isn't on the panic button, but the panic button is now within sight, and my hand might be hovering in its vicinity.
Well, I think that's probably a fair place to be, Drew, because, I mean, look, this Jets team was in 1 goal away, 5-12, whenever Kyle Connor scored that meaningless goal in the third period, from being shut out from the 4th time in the last 8 games. So they're not scoring goals. Their power play has 1 goal in their last 30 opportunities. They did give up a shorthanded goal tonight, so I mean that's a bond benefit for their special teams. They didn't give up a power play goal against, I don't think, but they did give up a shorthanded goal. So I mean that's something, I guess, to talk about. But it's just not good. And the fact of the matter is, and we look, a couple things. We didn't expect when the Jets got quote healthy that it was all going to come back into place, and suddenly they were going to go from being like dealing with injury, and then they got healthy. And then suddenly now they're healthy and it was all, they were just going to take off even more because I mean, there were signs obviously during this last little stretch that we've seen that doesn't indicate that it was, that they were playing perfect hockey by any stretch of the imagination. But, and obviously Sean Monahan is only playing in his 2nd game as a member of the Winnipeg Jets. So we're not putting too much on his shoulders, but at the same time, I mean, you're right, Drew, the effort, they were a step behind in that first period. And it was over. It was 3-0. Again, as I've said a number of times during this little stretch, we have a feel for this team, as do most folks who are watching this team. And I suspect that most folks after that first period said we could start the Illegal Curve postgame show because this one's over. There was almost a 0% chance that they were going to come back in down 3-0 the way they've been playing of late. So I think we probably fairly could have saved ourselves and the folks some time by not having to watch periods 2 and periods 3. And just started this post-game show at that point because, I mean, right now they just don't have it, and it's strange, right? It's so many plays that are just bizarre, like Kyle Connor partial breakaway and passing to Nikolai Ehlers, Cole Perfetti in the third period opting to pass rather than to shoot on the net, and I think there was a quote Mike McIntyre had from I don't remember who this week, whether it was Dylan DeMello or Neil Pionk. I think it was Neil Pionk. Just talking about how the Jets needed to shoot and get something at the net, and they're not doing it. They're opting to make these passes. And to me, that's just a critical error. And so like I said, it's one thing if you can't score, but at least your defense is staying strong. But right now, the Jets defensively aren't. Look, the Flyers are not a good team at home. They were under 500 coming in today's game. They were 11, 12, and 2, I believe, at home. So the fact of the matter is, they're not. You can't expect them to. You're thinking, and again, from a goal differential perspective, the Jets and the Flyers have scored about the same amount of goals this season. I think about 148, 149. Obviously, changed after tonight.
Yeah, exactly. They were basically
going
even coming into tonight's game. Yeah.
But the Flyers had given up 37 more goals than the Jets this season coming into tonight's game. And again, Flyers have played, I think, 51. So they're a couple games ahead of the Jets. But the fact is, the Jets just didn't play like a hungry, desperate team. And it's inexplicable. I'm sorry. And again, I understand I'm not an NHL head coach. I'm not going to pretend. Well, I often pretend to be one. But what I don't understand, and with all due respect to Kyle Connor, who's played back now 7 games, but the line that worked for you, the line that was rolling for you, the line that had you so much success was Velarde, Scheifele, and Ehlers. So to me, I don't understand. I understand. I think Rick Bowness was asked about it, whether you go back to it. This is when they were still.
Mike asked him. Mike and McIntyre, who's on the road.
Mike asked him about it yesterday.
Right.
But I'm saying previously, just the idea. And and I can understand that people are like, oh, well, why would you break it up when they're having success? Well, the truth is a couple of reasons. One is that if a guy gets injured, you can't be too reliant on one line. So guys don't have any sort of muscle memory playing with anyone else. So if a guy goes down in game 81 or game 82, you're screwed because, those guys have played together the entirety of the season. So I understand why you would. But to me, during this stretch, when this team is struggling and you need to score, sorry, with all due respect to Alex Iafallo, who doesn't have a goal in his last 10 games, he's not the guy to put up with Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor and think this is going to get you a goal.
Yeah, but that was a message being sent. So what you're talking about,
I understand it's a message to Gabriel Velarde because he didn't have a particularly good first period.
Well, but that first goal he looks
100%
on that first goal.
We'll get into it during the recap.
Yeah,
but that's not my point. My point is, messages are all great, well and good, but you're down 3-0, and 40 minutes to go. And Philadelphia is not the Boston Bruins. They're a good team. They're not a juggernaut. So the truth is, as you said, Drew, before that game against the Flyers, they'd lost 5 games in a row. So if the Jets come out like they did, and Nito Niederreiter scores that goal, or they score on the power play 3-1 early in the second, my feeling in that game is probably changing. But they don't. Of course, they give up the shorthanded goal, and then at that point, it's, here come the pretzels. But to me, it's inexplicable when you have what works. Go to it. I don't care about this whole, we got to, we want to give them a little bit of runway. No, you don't really have time for runway. Moral victories are only so good. And again, I'm not with like you, and I'll let you come back in. Like you, I don't think this is over. I don't think the Jets season is done. I don't think the Jets are a wild card team, like I saw some folks, suggesting on Twitter. But all I would say is that they needed to do something that's had success, that worked well for them. And to me, that would have been a way to start in the second period, which they didn't choose to do.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of concerning parts of tonight's game, and I think it starts with, I don't know how you come out flat, and this is something we did say a lot last year. And I mean, look, I will be surprised if they collapse like they did last year. I will. Even watching that game tonight, I don't think that they are as mentally fragile, and that's as fragile a dressing room as it was last year. And
they're not as fractured either. I don't think.
Not as fractured either. Right. Exactly. True. I just don't understand how they come out and look so terrible to start tonight's game.
No,
that to me is concerning. It's concerning. I mean, there's no other word to use besides concerning in response to that. You just have to find a way to have a better start to the game. And you're just seeing, and sure, to some respect, the puck is not bouncing their way. And we saw it on a couple of Pittsburgh's goals, and we saw it on a few of the goals from the Flyers tonight. The second and the third goals in particular, which we'll talk about coming up in a bit in the Betway game recap. But nonetheless, the Jets were awful in that first period. They were just out for a skate. They had no semblance of what I would describe as a game plan. And that I mean, they obviously had a game plan, but if you can articulate what they were attempting to do in the few instances when they had the puck on their stick, you're smarter than I am. Now, saying that you're smarter than me might not be the greatest hill to climb or anything along those lines. But the Jets in that first period just looked like they were out skating around and had there was just no flow to their game. And Kevin Sawyer talked about the Flyers and layers,
Mhm.
in the broadcast, particularly
And
in
so
the
did
first period.
so is Sven right here on our
There
show.
you go. Exactly right. Just didn't have enough layers. It's true. Layers is how you win when it's sort of, and that's how the Jets were succeeding when it was one group after another after another. Anytime the Jets had possession and they maybe gained the zone, well, they often just gave, if they gained the zone with the puck, which didn't happen that often, it was dump and right back out. There was no significant waves to the forecheck for the Jets.
Mhm.
And we remember earlier, when they were rolling as well as they had been, puck would go in deep, but it would go in deep with purpose. So that when you had a clean zone entry, you obviously took that clean zone entry and you were happy to take it. But even when you didn't have a clean zone entry and you maybe had to put it into the corner, well, you put it into the corner and there were guys who were forechecking so that the other team immediately knew that this is not going to be an easy retrieval and then zone exit. That first period, I mean, the Flyers had they had no challenge put forth to them. The Jets didn't challenge Philadelphia. They didn't make it difficult on Philadelphia at all. It would be a dump in. That would be an ineffective dump in. And Philly, okay, I'll go retrieve the puck and I'll go transition up the ice. There was just no semblance of cohesive approach to the Jets game in the first period. And frankly, the final 40 minutes of tonight's game really didn't matter.
No,
especially once the 4-0 goal was scored.
They were busy.
Really didn't matter.
They were simply me trying to figure out who the celebrity lookalike was, aka Adrian Pimento from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Turns out to be what's his name again? Sorry, I've got his name here on
there you
somewhere.
Go. I wasn't a Brooklyn Nine-Nine guy, so your reference went over my head.
Really?
Yeah,
Scott Duarte, who is, I think he works for Global
News.
Yeah,
and good for him for making the trip from Pittsburgh to Philadelphia. For on Tuesday in Pittsburgh and on Thursday got a lot of screen time. Unfortunately, he saw two pretty lousy games. At least they finally scored a goal for him and his and the woman that he was sitting with. I don't know if it's his wife,
fiance, according to Kelly Moore, I believe.
Fiance, okay, terrific. Congratulations to them, the happy couple, soon to be betrothed. Hopefully, the Jets haven't ruined the relationship or anything along those lines.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was just a horrendous. It was the worst first period that the Jets, I think, have played this year. Well, I can't think of a worst first period on a game where they needed to have one of their better first periods, given how desperate they should have been.
Well, and I was just going to say, what did I say the last game against Pittsburgh? I said the Jets have not been a good first period team.
True.
They don't allow a lot of goals against until tonight,
right?
But they also don't score. They don't produce a lot, and that's this whole idea of starting on time has been a big sort of negative for the Jets this season. And that is one of the areas of, I guess, concern, because what is it about the Jets approach that doesn't have them ready to go when the puck drops? And that's, I mean, you're getting outshot. They were outshot heavily by the Flyers. I think it was 13-3 at one point.
Yeah.
And what was the most concerning, I thought, actually, was when after the Flyers went up 2-0, the Flyers took the next 3, 4, 5 shots. Like the Jets didn't pressure. It was
there's no
like
push.
What is going to be the Jets' answer to being down 2-0? The answer was nothing good. Like the answer was, well, we're going to let the Flyers continue to dominate. Sure, there's two teams, and again, we talked about it. The Flyers have played some good hockey against the Jets. They've played some poor hockey. Again, like I said, during that little stretch where they were down 5 in a row, but now it's the Jets who are down 5 in a row, right? 0-4-1 in their last 5 games. Luckily for them, I think some of the other Central teams are losing, except for the Wild and the Blues. But look, it is we'll see if they end up practicing tomorrow. Right now it's scheduled. Whether they hold it or not, that's another question. But it's not a good formula right now for this team. I mean, teams go through slides.
Yeah.
You know, they said it on the broadcast, you're not going to win all the games. And nobody's expecting the Jets to go 82-0. But I think it's not that Jets fans are expecting the team to be unbeaten during the stretch. It's how they play these games when they lose.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody would blink an eye. If the Jets lost this game 3-1 and they played their hearts out, nobody in the chat some people would be upset still, but the reality is folks would understand. You'd say, okay, but when you see that play by Gabriel Velarde, to get back, Dylan Sandberg pinches, Gabriel Velarde gets back, and then he's just standing around, doesn't take his man. Well, I mean, that goal doesn't go in if he does his job. Right. And so that to me is that effort level that you needed to see that was much better that you didn't see. And
the
so
attention to detail. When the Jets are at their best, like most teams in this league, when they're at their best, their attention to detail is on point. And I got a text message from my dad. He's like, how could they look so bad, or so good earlier, and now they look like this team? And of course the answer is because they're human and everything else. And there's really, these teams in the NHL, parity means that your margin of error is not tremendous.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Winnipeg Jets might be getting a reminder. Now, whether or not they take that reminder to heart is something we'll find out in the coming days, weeks, and months, is that the margin for error, is very thin for a lot of these teams. Even the teams that are previously in the upper echelon, if they do not have their details right, and if they don't have their approach to the game proper, it's going to end up costing them. And that's what you saw today from a Winnipeg Jets team that just wasn't good. They were way better in Pittsburgh than they were tonight.
Yeah, no question. No question.
And that's what's so disconcerting about it, is that, a lot of the game in Pittsburgh, a lot of the goals the Penguins scored, the Jets were probably, they were in a decent position, and it was a bad bounce or it deflected off a guy and went right to a Penguin stick, whatever. And that happens. That sort of, bleep happens in the course of a season. Mm-hmm. Tonight, Philly got the bounces, but the Jets also weren't in position to prevent Philly from taking advantage of those bounces. The Jets played, in my estimation, probably their worst game in 3 or 4 months tonight. You can't sugarcoat it. There was nothing that you can build upon in tonight's game from my perspective.
Yeah, no, and we'll get into it more in the game recap. I'm just going to say, if we're going to drop a Sheldon Manel reference, we'll give a Gary Minuk reference, because my dad did say before this game, he said it's going to be a 5-game losing streak for the Jets. But Jets fans, take heart. He did say the Jets will win against Pittsburgh on Saturday. So if my dad proves to be correct, Saturday we will be having a different sort of atmosphere on the Illegal Curve postgame show. But he did accurately call. He told me this yesterday, actually, but again today. And then when he checked the score, he said, "I told you it was going to be a 5-game losing streak." So my dad did predict it. Good one, Dad. But we'll see if they can get this turned around when they face those Pittsburgh Penguins on Saturday.
There you go. And that'll be obviously the Jets' next attempt to get off the schneid and arrest the losing streak Saturday night against the Penguins. Let's get into tonight's game. The goal-by-goal recap is called the Betway Game Recap.
The Betway Game Recap.
Big thanks to our friends at Betway for their continued support of the Illegal Curve post-game show. Big betting day upcoming on Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday. So if you're looking to make a wager, maybe you're a rookie wager placer. That's terrible use of the English language. Forgive me for that. Or maybe you're a grizzled veteran when it comes to placing a bet. Whatever you may be, we do encourage you to use Betway to place that bet. Head on over to Betway and bet your way. Please play responsibly. We mentioned the Jets did not get off to a good start. 3 minutes and 37 seconds into the game. It is just as bad a start as the Jets could ever, unfortunately, have. Tonight, it is Forrester who gets the goal for the Flyers to start it off. And Tyson Forrester, sorry, couldn't find his name there for the second there. Tyson Forrester getting his 10th of the year, assist to Ryan Poehling and Noah Cates. it's a 2-on-2 situation, Dave, and it's Gabe Vilardi is back on they're going so it would be on the viewer's right is where Vilardi is. It's a 2-on-2 situation. Neil Pionk is also back. He plays it fine, except Vilardi just loses Forrester. He's in a decent position. He just stops skating and then just stands in front of the net and covers air. Now, it was a good example of why Gabe Vilardi isn't a defenseman regularly, but everybody knows that you have to tie up your man in that situation. And Gabe Vilardi, I'm not sure if it's even puck watching or what he's thinking in this semblance of events, but it's absolutely awful. And it's an easy goal after a nice pass from Ryan Poehling, and it's Forrester makes a 1-0 for the Flyers. Just a horrendous start for the Winnipeg Jets.
As an aside, was it Poehling who played in his first game out of college and scored 4 goals for the Habs?
Yes, I think that sounds right. That's going back a number of years ago, right?
Anyways, big shout out, by the way, to our boy Dan Flannery, aka Philly Dan,
Philly Dan,
who we met in Vegas, Ezzy and I, at it might not even have been a draft, actually. I think Ezzy and I just took a random side trip with him.
There was no draft. What draft was in Vegas?
No, but I'm saying we met Philly Dan in Vegas, I'm saying. And so I was trying to remember why I was there. And then I think Ezzy, we did some bizarro trip where it was like me, Ezzy, and one of my boys. And then we met Philly Dan, Heart Bar at Planet Hollywood. And then we hung out with Dan at the draft, speaking of drafts, in 2014 in Philadelphia. So shout out Philly Dan, who's watching the show from Philly. He's very happy because he's a big Flyers guy, big Phillies guy, all big sports fan, Eagles and all the other Philadelphia sports. But Drew, this is a Jets show. We'll talk about that Jets play because it's a terrible play by Gabriel Vilardi. There's no excuse. I mean, you know that you have to get back. You know that Dylan Sandberg has pinched, so it's your responsibility. And
which he does, which he gets back. He's in good position.
Right with them.
He just brain farts. He's short-circuited.
No, he's watching the puck. He's watching the puck, and it makes no sense because Neil Pionk is there. And Neil Pionk played it a little bit unusually because he almost was aggressive and then he backed off. He almost like he second guessed himself and then backed off. So he backed off to watch Poehling. And then all of a sudden Forrester's got like all this room because like Vilardi just inexplicably is standing there watching what Poehling's doing with the puck. So, I mean, to me, it's all on Gabriel Vilardi. I mean, that's just a bad goal. Not much you can do if you're Laurent Brossoit, but that to me is all on the Jets forward, and it's a bad start. What is it? 3:22 into the first period, and again, the Jets have played and come back in games. It's not as if that's something that's beyond them, but the truth is the way they are playing right now with a little more fragility. You're thinking them, they needed to have a good start. They needed to not necessarily get off to they needed to have like a good stop, even if it wasn't going to be a goal or something, but something they could build on or a good sequence, and they couldn't do it. And then you give that opportunity up. It takes a team that's already kind of like holding their sticks a little tight. And look, we went through it. Mike wrote an article about it for the Free Press, and I went and I looked because I was curious before I even read his article in terms of the guys who haven't scored. Nino Niederreiter, 14 or 15 games. Alex Iafallo, 10 games. Adam Lowry, I think, is 10 games. Mason Appleton actually has 3 goals in his last 10 games. Nikolai Ehlers has 3 goals in his last 10 games, but he hasn't scored. No, sorry. Cole Perfetti has 3 goals in his last 10 games, but he hasn't scored in the last 7. Now it's 8 games. So a lot of these guys, the only guy who has, 4 goals before coming into today's game was Vilardi, had 4 goals in his last 10, but the team isn't scoring. And again, if you're not scoring, then your defense has to be tight and has to be crisp. Yeah. And it can't be sloppy like that. And there's just no excuse for it. You didn't have a heavy day. You had an optional morning skate. And what is Rick Bonus's big commentary? If you're not going to skate in the optional, that's your prerogative, but be ready to go when the puck drops. And this team, that line specifically, sorry, that wasn't a line that was saying to me, we're ready to go, because that was just a play that shouldn't have ended up in the back of your net. And it puts you behind the 8 ball and in a bad position. And, Philly's got a good crowd, so they're pumped up and they're getting excited.
Yeah, terrible start for the Winnipeg Jets, and it gets worse at the 14:03 mark of that first period, which was just a catastrophe for the Jets. Travis Konechny getting his 24th of the year. He's a hell of a hockey player, folks.
Yeah, there's a reason why Jets
Morgan,
fans were begging for him to be traded for.
yeah, that's right. And I'm not sure why they would trade him, but I guess stranger things have happened. But I think that's more making noise than anything in reality. Morgan Frost and Sean Walker, to talk about a guy who's also on the trade block. Sean Walker getting the assist on this one, and now this one is look. When things are going bad, they often go bad, and bad bounces happen. And this is definitely one that constitutes a bad bounce. This is a nothing play where the puck just happens to bounce around, and then Travis Konechny scores, but he really scores by shooting it off of Neil Pionk's chest and past Laurent Brossoit. So the shot is from Walker, and the Jets player gets his stick on it, and Logan Stan. Say that again.
I think it was Monahan it went off Monahan to Konechny, and then he puts it in off of Pionk.
Right, you're right. That's exactly right. So, but the shot from Sean Walker, the shot is bouncing all around, and Logan Stanley is in position, and the puck just sort of bounces over his stick. Now, would you like to see Stanley maybe play it a little bit different in terms of using his body rather than his stick to knock down a bouncing puck? Maybe. I'm not going to blame Logan Stanley on this one. And then you're right. Then it goes off for Sean Monahan right onto the stick of Travis Konechny. Does Konechny turn, fire, and pick a corner? No, he pinballs it in off of Neil Pionk. I mean, the Jets aren't in terrible position here, I would say. They're clogging the front. It's just that the puck is bouncing in a manner that is not favorable, and then the Flyers get the lucky deflection off of Pionk. But no matter, you make your own luck, because it's not like the Jets had been outplaying Philly to this point, or it's not like the Jets had responded after the Forrester goal and were taking the play to Philadelphia. It felt like Philly was about to get another goal. Now, it's not a pretty goal, but Philly deserves it, because they were, 13-4 were the shots in the first period. And I think two of those shots that you mentioned in the tweet, Dave, on our Twitter feed at Illegal Curve, two of the Jets' 4 shots in the first period came with about 20 seconds to go in the period. So the shots at this point in time are heavily one-sided. So Philly gets their just desserts and gets a 2-0 lead as a result.
Yeah, no, it's an unfortunate situation if you're the Jets. The other thing also, if you're Cole Perfetti, you need to block that shot, right? I mean, that's part of, if you're going to go for the block, you need to be a little more effective at the block shot, because, it gets, it's not all on him, right? But unfortunately, his inability to block it leads to a series of unfortunate bounces that end up in the back of the net. I'm not going to blame Laurent Brossoit on that one, because again, it's just unfortunate the way the cookie crumbled in that regard, Drew. So yeah, and you went through it, so I'm not going to go through that goal again, but it's an unfortunate circumstance. But again, if you're the Jets, you're thinking, okay, that one, the first one is bad defense by, one player. You're not going to throw the whole team out because of one play by one player. Right. Okay. Second one, now you're like, okay, we're down 2-0, 10 minutes, 11 minutes later. So it was a 1-0 game for a while. But the fact is, and also remember, the Jets also took penalties, which they really shouldn't be doing at this point. And again, that's getting out of their system, right? We're talking about one of the least penalized teams in the NHL for a large stretch of this season. And now they're taking more and more penalties. And while the PK has been better, you don't need to be giving teams advantages especially when your 5-on-5 play has been good. And we looked at that Pittsburgh game, right, Drew? Yeah. Pittsburgh game 5-on-5 play for the Jets was good. You're not sitting there going, their 5-on-5 play was terrible 2 days ago. Right. So the fact is, you just cannot afford, not only can you not afford to do it, but you also take the whole team out of the rhythm, right? Like you get these penalties, and now suddenly the lines are thrown off, guys are missing shifts. It's just not, and again, the play by Nemesnikov, the high stick, that's just casual. And he's a veteran player, and we're usually lauding the plays by Vlad Nemesnikov. But I'm just saying, like, those are the kind of things that when you're in this kind of stretch seem to happen to teams that are kind of in it. And that's, again, to me, that's just something you need to tighten up and clean up, because it just puts your team behind it. So The Jets, again, didn't get anything going. The Flyers were able to build momentum, score that goal. And now the question for me, and I mentioned this in our little bit of a preamble, but to me was the question of how are the Jets going to respond? How are the Jets going to turn a 2-0 deficit? What would be their response to it? Knowing where they are in the kind of at the end of this little road trip, at the idea of this little stretch, because they weren't playing particularly well before the breaks, the player break and the All-Star break. So what were they going to do? And again, that to me was, how are you going to respond? And again, they didn't have a shot for 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Because it was 11, I think it was 11-3 or something like that. I think they ended up, originally it was 11-5, I think, after one. They must have taken away one of the Jets shots. So even though I said there were a flurry of 2, Drew, turned out there was just one. So, but regardless, I mean, you wanted to see when it was 2-0 for the Flyers, how would the Jets kind of
how would they respond?
Because like I said, you could justify it on the bench saying, okay, well, that was a fluky goal. We're still in this hockey game. But then you don't get you don't have any bite, you don't have any pushback. None. And it's the Flyers who are coming at you. You'd expect, again, that you'd be able to answer and push. And, we always hear, oh, well, they're both 2 NHL teams out there and they want to, one team can't always push their value onto the other team. Well, we didn't see the Jets pushing back. And so instead it was the Flyers, after scoring to make it 2-0, continuing to push. And they obviously score that third goal.
Yeah, they make it 3-0. Morgan Frost, his 8th of the year, assist to Owen Tippett and Travis Konechny. That comes at the 18:06 mark. So 4 minutes and 3 seconds after they make it 2-0, right when the Jets are, trying to maybe say, okay, let's get out of this first period. Let's get out of here and maybe we can recalibrate, and we're only down 2-0 to start the second. Well, no, you're now down 3-0 and it's game over. And I mean, it's just an inexcusable sequence of events here, again, for the Winnipeg Jets. And it's not another pretty goal. It's not another one that's going to go on any highlight reels. It's not going to be featured on Sports Center or anything along those lines. But Philly is going to the right places to get rewarded. They're going to the front of the net. That's where you go to get rewarded. I thought the Jets were far too perimeter based for a lot of this game. And I mean, again, everything that happened after the first period was relatively meaningless. I mean, Kyle Connor scored, and you like that you're not getting shut out again. But again, it's relatively meaningless after you're down 3-0. You haven't been able to score any goals as of late. Your offense is as dried up, as typically our skin is in a Winnipeg winter. Not this winter. There's been more moisture in the air than we're typically used to. But it's 3-0 for the Flyers after 20 minutes, and Philly. John Tortorella, whatever you think of him, and I don't think a lot about him, or think of a lot of him off the ice. Behind the bench, he's a pretty damn good head coach. He'll have Philly playing exactly how they want to play for the rest of the game now that you're up 3-0 against a weakened opponent. And I say weakened in the sense that the Jets are fragile, because you saw the fragility on display in tonight's contest.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you're absolutely right, Drew. And I think, again, it goes down to watch that play. The guys they're just out of sync.
Yeah.
Morgan Barron and Nate Schmidt are on one guy. Logan Stanley is behind the net. The Flyers are loaded on the other side. So the Jets have, it's completely overbalanced. And when the puck slides that way, well, guess what? The Jets are in trouble, because there's 3 of the Jets on the left side and all the Flyers are going to the right. So, they put it into the back of the net. And again, your team doesn't show strength. It doesn't show that it has a structure. It shows that it's chaotic. And that's the problem, right? So you didn't push back when you're down 2-0. In fact, you allowed the Flyers to continue to push you down. And now it's a 3-0 lead. And at this point, with the way they were playing, for the most part, and I know I talked about the fact that it had Niederreiter scored, it may have made a difference.
Right.
But based on what we had seen through 20 minutes, I felt fairly confident in saying that we could probably have started the Leo Crew post-game show and not had to watch the last 40 minutes.
I would agree with you. We say good evening to everyone. Welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mandel, Dave Manouk with you on this Thursday night, talking about the Jets dropping their 5th straight game, 4-1 tonight in the city of brotherly love. They lose that by that margin to the Philadelphia Flyers. If you haven't already done so, please smash the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's where we do this show after each and every Jets game. And again, on Saturday mornings, we'll be back Saturday, 9 a.m. to get you set up for the Jets and the Penguins. 15 years of the Illegal Curve hockey show plus 1 week. So we made it to that all important 1 week after 15 years. And of course, Saturday night, the Illegal Curve post game show. Dave and Ezzy will drive that bus for you.
Bell Media can't cancel us, Drew.
No, can't cancel us. Exactly.
Although
right.
tomorrow is the 3-year anniversary. We'll talk about that probably after the break.
Yeah.
3-year anniversary of when TSN 1290 went pow.
Yes. And of course, our thoughts are with everybody that fell victim again today to the bean counters and the ghouls at Bell Media, who really have no, well, as long as the shareholder price is
shareholders. Have you seen the compensation for the CEO? I love how someone was suggesting that the CEO compensation, he doesn't get as much as this, and this. It's like, yeah, anyways, it's a joke.
Yeah, no, his job is to be cold-hearted. That's his job. Unfortunately, it's the reality of the situation. Is that that's his job, and guess what? He's very good at his job, as we saw again today with more horrendous cuts to right across this country of ours. But anyways, that's a separate issue for another day in time. 3-0 for Philly, and it's sort of hard to come up with a better goal to exemplify the Winnipeg Jets struggles than the 4th one that the Flyers scored. So it's early in the second period. Travis Konechny is in the box for hooking. The Jets are down 3-0. Maybe the Jets power play, Sean Monahan, Mr. Bumper himself, maybe something good will come of that, and it'll maybe be a 3-1 game early in the second period. And if it's 3-1, well, anything can happen at that point. Instead, what do we have here? The Jets win the face-off. We know how important face-offs are. And then it's Keystone Cops moment where, I mean, it's just about as ugly as you can get on this one, where the Jets just really, run into each other. Morrissey and Connor in trying to decide who's going to retrieve the win on the face-off draw, just have terrible communication with one another. And Ryan Poling comes in and he gets the puck, and it's a 2-on-2 situation, and he uses I believe it was Morrissey as a screen, and he just wires it past Laurent Brossoit. I mean, the Jets should have been able to gather possession off the clean face-off win. They should have been able to set up their power play in the Flyers zone. They should have been able to establish zone time. Whether or not that would have resulted in a goal, that's separate. We don't know. We'll never know. Instead, what happens is, Connor and Morrissey just don't communicate well, and Philly takes advantage. And then, Poehling, like you said, he knows how to score goals. He's done it. He's an NHL player. He's not a top 6 NHL player, but he's a guy who's got some skill and who's got some speed. And if he ever could stay healthy, he'd be a good contributor. And in this case, he just takes the puck and, he uses the Jets defender as a screen, and he's got a good shot, and he beats Laurent Brossoit, and it's 4-0 at this point in time. And it's gone from bad to worse to catastrophe for the Winnipeg Jets.
Right now, I'm arguing with JB as to whether it was a drop pass or a cross ice pass on the Kyle Connor one. He says drop pass. I say I thought it was a cross ice. Regardless of what it was, we'll talk about that when we get to that, Drew. But getting back to your point, I mean, yes, first of all, I think the way you've outlined it is right. It was a comedy of errors. It was it was a lack of communication, right? With the uncertainty there. And that's, like I said, I think there was a lot of uncertainty throughout this game. So you have that play, but really, even on that chance, I mean, there's no reason that should be Laurent Brossoit. Now, it was shot through. It was shot through a
screen. It's tough for a goalie to pick it up.
I know. I was going to say shot through a screen. So, and I'm sure that's what he would say, is that it was, it's a hard one to save, but that's really where you need that save, because Nino Niederreiter had created an opportunity. Obviously, shortly thereafter they got the power play which of course ended up being a shorthanded goal. But that was their chance really to get back into this hockey game, right? And once it's 4-0, that game's over. Jets are not coming back from that game. And the unfortunate part for the Jets was they controlled the play in the second period, right? That was the only that was the only shot, which is bad enough, but that was the only shot that the Flyers got for the majority of that second period. The shots were
15-3 were the shots in the second.
Sure,
period.
but for a significant portion of it, I think more than half, it was like 7-1. So the one shot against ends up being a shorthanded goal, which sealed the deal. I mean, again, I felt it was pretty much over at 3-0, but I could have been, argued with that a 3-1 goal early in the second changes the way that game ends up looking. But when it's 4-0, and with the way the Jets are playing, they're not coming back from that game.
They're not coming back from that game.
So at that point, you're like, well, are you looking for something? Are you looking for some sort of, positive you can build on? But it's hard too, right? Like these are all such hollow things. Like you could say, well, they outshot them 15-3 in the second period. Who cares? Who cares?
Come on.
I mean, at that point, Philly's up 4-0. Like they still had some chances. Let's not forget.
Philly,
and in fact, Drew, they had that one chance that slid kind of very close,
right past the post,
close
just
to the post,
trickling past the post.
So it was not anything that you're going to sort of take a hollow victory and say, well, we had, because to me, if that was the case, I'd say, okay, fine. You dominated the second, but you're outscored outscored 1-0. How did you react in the third? Well, you reacted in the third by really Philadelphia coming out and out shooting you 4-3. And then ultimately the Jets poured it on because Philadelphia really sat back because they have no reason to push at that point. But at the same time, like the Flyers came out harder than the Jets in the third period, right, Drew? So I don't want to get ahead of your third period analysis. Maybe there's something left in the second period you want to talk about.
My third period analysis mostly has to do with the decision by Kyle Connor to pass it off to Nikolai Ehlers rather than shoot in that situation. I mean, I understand what he was trying to do, because Ehlers is there as the trailer and he's coming with a head of speed and he's coming downhill, and I sort of understand the thought process, but that's not the time nor the place.
Yeah,
especially in that instance where the Jets are, you need to. You're Kyle Connor. You need to get a shot off in that situation. You need to just simplify the game is where the Jets need to be thinking. That needs to be their mindset. They're not, the way they're playing as of late, anything highlight reel shouldn't be in their thinking because they haven't been able to produce a simple pass for the most part, never mind a highlight reel sequence of passes or anything along those lines. They need to simplify their game. And then once you simplify their game, once they sort of capture that and get back to the nuts and bolts of their effectiveness, that is when they can begin to build on that. And then you get into some of the the crispness and some of the exciting plays that we've seen. Look, before you can run, you have to walk. The Jets right now are back in the crawling stage, which means their first step has to be walking, which means simplifying things. Shots on net, traffic in front, bodies in front. Nothing fancy. Right now, it does need to be as simple as it can get for the Winnipeg Jets, because right now, nothing is easy for the Winnipeg Jets.
Well, and Drew, I just wanted to jump on board with that thought process because, again, we saw that with whether it was Ehlers doing the drop pass when he had a chance, Kyle Connor, the same. I'll go with JB's assessment that it was a drop pass. So there you go. Another drop pass that was unnecessary. And Cole Perfetti passing up a shot. I mean, it was right after the Jets had scored. So I don't think the Jets are going to come back in that hockey game, but you could have built a little momentum. You could have had something. Something that you could say tomorrow or Saturday when they next speak is like, okay, well, we didn't have a great blah, blah, but at least, we ended the game in some sort of fashion. But it was just too, again, and don't believe me, right? Like I said, go back and read Mike's article with Neil Pionk, where he basically said, we're opting to take these passes that we're not going for the greasy shots. And Adam Lowry had some chances. He had a chance shorthanded. He had a chance, 5-on-5. So there were some opportunities created, but it's just too little too late. And you cannot, what this game comes down to, and what a lot of these games of late have come down to, is the Jets have not started the game on time. And because of that, they're behind. And generally when the Jets can sometimes, it's kind of like when you're a good athlete, you can cheat at things. So, there's certain, okay, fine, hey, I'm not going to be, ready to go right when the puck drops, but, I'm so good, I'll still score 3 or 4 goals. Right now, the Jets aren't like that. They need to be ready to go when the puck drops. So, again, it's just too little too late. The Kyle Connor goal, it's nothing really I don't even think we need to discuss it unless you want to give it the Seagram shot of the game. But
yeah, I was going to give it to the Paling goal. So, because I thought that was actually one of the better shots of the game in terms of, at least of all the goals that were scored tonight, that one at least looked like it had an NHL
actually, hold on.
shot.
Although I want reading the comments, Drew. I mean, Neil Pionk's fight in the first period.
Sure.
Although I was going to say
the shot of the game.
That could be the shot of the game. But I was going to say the only thing is Neil Pionk has to realize Jets only have 6 defensemen right now, and they don't have room to call up a 7th. So he can't afford, with 2 more games for Brendan Dillon. And we'll of course talk about the Dillon suspension, but with 2 more games for Brendan Dillon, Neil Pionk can ill afford to be injured. Although I guess if he's injured, he can call it Villahinola.
Nonetheless, that'll be our Seagram shot of the game.
The Seagram shot of the game.
Big thanks to our friends at Seagram's for their continued support of the Illegal Curve post-game show. If you're like me, or no one would excuse you, no one would fault you for needing to have one of the great Seagram's products to enjoy a lot of that Winnipeg Jets Philadelphia Flyers game tonight. Perhaps your choice was Seagram's VO, which, as we all know, was masterfully blended and distinctly Canadian. Big thanks to our friends at Seagram's for their continued support of the Illegal Curve post-game show. The Jets get off the schneid. They don't get shut out again. Kyle Connor gets his 19th of the year. I guess he also gets off the schneid, finally getting a goal that isn't an empty net goal since returning from injury. Kyle Connor, his 19th assist to Mark Scheifele and Josh Morrissey. Showed some good patience on this one. Showed some good, skill and silky hands that we know that he has. But ultimately, far too little, far too late, as the Jets drop a very listless and disappointing 4-1 decision to the Philadelphia Flyers tonight. The Jets return home to face the Penguins on Saturday night, looking to get back into the win column as the losing streak has now reached 5 games, the longest of the season, and something that the Jets will certainly try to arrest in about 48 hours' time. We'll know if they were successful or not. When we come back on the Illegal Curve post-game show, we talk more about tonight's game. I have some thoughts about the Brendan Dillon suspension, plus Tough Duck hardest-hitting comments still to come. It's the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mandel, Dave Manouk with you on a Thursday night. Don't go anywhere. We are live on our YouTube channel.
This Valentine's Day, heart-shaped pizzas are back at Boston Pizza. On February 14th, share your favorite delicious Boston pizza with the ones you love. Your locally owned Boston Pizza will donate $1 from every heart-shaped pizza sold to the Travis Price Children's Heart Center and the Children's Hospital Foundation of Manitoba. To order, call 925-4111. This Valentine's, share the love with a heart-shaped pizza from Boston Pizza.
You guys ever wish for a game changer in life?
Like finding out your favorite snack has 0 calories?
Or discovering the mute button on Ezzy?
Picture this, a secret weapon for parking, where you can book a spot a whole month in advance.
Tell me more, Drew.
Pre-book your parking at really low rates, or maybe even for free if you use the code Illegal Curve.
Free? What is this, sorcery?
The Grid Park app. It's a real secret weapon that has affordable game day parking, and to sweeten the deal even more,
I love sweets.
Our listeners can use the code Illegal Curve to park for free.
Holy Zamboni.
Tell me about it. Just download Grid Park, GRYD Park, and use the code Illegal Curve, all one word, to park for free.
The game can change just like that. Accidents happen when you aren't protected. So now what? Getting to your injury quickly can make all the difference. Help prevent them from being game changers with Linden Market Dental Center. Bonding, crowns, bridges, and dental implants. State-of-the-art treatments are available to help you get back in the game. To learn more, visit lindenmarketdentalcenter.com. Creating smiles for life.
Your coworkers love you because you always make them laugh. You're the life of the party with stories that have them rolling on the floor. Or maybe you're just the quiet one in the corner with the one-liners that just slay. Do you have what it takes to become Winnipeg's funniest person with a day job? Try your luck. Hit the stage at Rumors Comedy Club, and you could be walking away with $1,000 cash. Winnipeg's funniest person with a day job, presented by Rumors. For all the details, head to rumorscomedyclub.com.
Whoa, Ezzy, everything okay? You look stressed.
Of course I'm stressed. We're moving, the house is upside down, the kids failed miserably at packing the fine china, and my life is in chaos. Chaos!
Yes, that does sound like a problem.
What am I going to do?
Ezzy, relax. Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage is the answer. With 60 years of experience in moving Manitobans and a track record of exemplary customer service, one call to Rolly's and your stress is gone. No job is too big or too small. Just visit Rollies.com and they will take it from there.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage, online at Rollies.com.
For 3 generations and over 80 years, Tough Duck has been making apparel that works and plays as hard as the people who wear it. From jackets to work boots and everything in between, Tough Duck's clothing can handle the harshest environments, even the illegal curve hockey show. Work to live, live to play. Visit toughduck.com. Bottom of the hour. Welcome back to the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mandel, Dave Manouk with you. Saturday morning, 9 a.m. The Illegal Curve Hockey Show will get you started. Get your game day started. The Jets and the Penguins will do a deep dive into what ails the Winnipeg Jets. JP Vijay, good friend of ours. He's going to join the program. We'll talk to JP about
Former Atlanta Thrasher, Drew.
Yes. I'm sure that's something that he puts right on front and center on his business card.
Hey,
Certainly.
he does wear an Atlanta Thrashers hat when he's at helmet, when he's skating. So,
well, there you go. Anyways, JP is going to join us on Saturday morning show, and Seth Rorabaugh, who of course a good friend of ours as well, has been covering the Pittsburgh Penguins for many a year. He's going to join us on Saturday too. So it's going to be a Jets heavy show, as it is oftentimes on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. So be sure to join us 9 a.m. on Saturday, and we'll talk about the Winnipeg Jets. And then, of course, after the game, we'll talk more about the Jets and the Penguins Saturday night post-game show right around 8:45 or so as well. Brendan Dillon will, of course, not be in the Winnipeg Jets lineup. He missed tonight's game, the first of his 3-game suspension for leveling a hit that deserved to be penalized and probably deserved a suspension. I would say a 1-game suspension in my estimation, maybe 2 if you want to pretend you're going to be hard on headshots.
yeah,
But
it resulted in a concussion.
yeah, it resulted in a concussion, and we hope that Noel Chari gets back to health very soon. Look, this is not. If this is, it doesn't deserve 3 games because far more egregious plays have not been punished with any games, or have been punished with 1 game.
So before Drew, I knew you're about to rant. And I want to hear your rant, and I'm here for your rant. I'm not stopping the rant. So keep that avalanche going.
Okay.
But before you do, let's include the chat in here, and let's see what most folks. Let's just ask the folks, what did you feel would have been a fair punishment for the Dillon hit? You can say nothing. You can say a fine. You can say a suspension.
Yeah.
So before Drew got going, I want to hear what you all have to say. I'll throw it up here while Drew is ranting. Continue.
And maybe I won't rant. I'm trying to, keep my cool. I got to keep my powder dry. I can't blow my top on each and every one of these. But
Okay.
there is no rhyme nor reason for why Brendan Dillon deserves 3 games with this hit. If you compare his hit,
Yep.
which got 3 games, to the hit that Brendan Gallagher leveled a couple weeks ago that got him 5 games.
Yeah.
You cannot tell me that Brendan Dillon's hit was only what was 2 games worse than Brendan Gallagher's. Gallagher's hit was predatory, malicious, violent, and vile. He tried to injure his opponent.
Yeah.
I do not believe that Brendan Dillon's hit was any of those things. I do not believe that Brendan Dillon had any malice in his heart in attempting, in his attempt at hitting Noel Achari. Did the hit result in an injury? Yes. Is that a unfortunate byproduct at times of a physical, fast game? Yes. But did Brendan Dillon stick out his elbow, on an unsuspecting player? No, he didn't.
Right.
Did Brendan Dillon stick out his knee on an unsuspecting player? No, he didn't. Brendan Dillon is a lot bigger than Noel Achari, and he missed the target when he was trying to level a clean body check. Deserving of punishment? No question. Deserving of suspension? If you want to give him 1 game for that, fine. But to give him 3 games or say that his offense is 2 games less harmful than Brendan Gallagher's clear attempt at injuring an opponent, to me, is absolutely asinine. And part of the reason, and I truly do believe this, and I'm not typically a tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist.
Go on.
But I truly do believe that the NHL Department of Player Safety, an oxymoron if there ever was one, knows that they can throw the book and pretend to be hard on punishing players. They can be harder on players on small market teams, such as the Winnipeg Jets, than they will be on teams that have more media coverage.
Okay.
Oh, we can punish a Winnipeg Jets player. It's no big deal. It's not going to stir that much. I can guarantee you that if Brendan Dillon played for the New York Rangers and leveled that same hit, the punishment would not have been 3 games, because Larry Brooks, who is a great journalist and a great columnist for the New York Post, would have called out the BS and would have made a big stink about it. Now, in Winnipeg, I'm not saying that we're not making a stink about it. Mike McIntyre wrote a column about it in today's Free Press.
So did Scotty B for
And
the
so did
Sun.
Scotty Billick for the Sun. But with all due respect to our friends, and us included, when we say things in Winnipeg, they have a far less significant ripple
Speak
than
for
they
yourself,
do.
Mindell.
I know. They have a far less significant ripple than they do when Larry Brooks writes about it, or when the Montreal Canadiens media write about it, or the Toronto Maple Leafs media write about it, or the Chicago Blackhawks, or the Boston Bruins. I can keep going on and on here. Brendan Dillon got punished because the NHL tried to make an example of somebody who they can make an example of. They chose to pussyfoot around Brendan Gallagher because they know that had they come down harsh on him, somebody would have made a stink about it and would have been a multiple day story.
Sure.
That's the NHL and George Peros and the Department of Player Safety. They're you know what they are? They're bullies in some regards to players who play on small market teams. So that is my rant on this topic. It's garbage, it's nonsense, and that, in a nutshell, should not be a surprise when anybody looks at the NHL Department of Player Safety.
Well, I don't think I'm going to try and top that bad boy speech. I would just say this. If you're the NHL, and let's say you don't like the Brendan Dillon hit. I mean, look, I'm of the generation where I still love hitting in hockey, and I don't like when a good hit has to be answered with a fight, because back in the day, you just hit a guy, and you knew that like I don't want to go all Don Cherry on this, but like, when do we become this soft society where you can't hit? And sure, there's consequences. If you mishit someone, you get suspended. So that's fine. Like, I have no problems with that. If that's a consequence. Do I think Brendan Dillon tried to take, like, Brendan Dillon has one suspension his entire career 7 years ago when he got a slashing penalty, coincidentally on a Manitoban, Madison Bowie, when he was playing for the Sharks and Bowie was with the Capitals. So 7 years ago, he got one suspension, which can't even be used against him. He's not considered a repeat offender because it hasn't happened in the last 18 months. Right. But if you want to get rid of it from the game, that's fine. But Drew, I watched Jason Zucker, and don't get me wrong, Nick Cousins deserved the hit that Jason Zucker threw on him.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have a problem with it, because I thought the way Cousins plays the game is deserving of, I liked what Zucker did standing up for his teammate. But you're going to tell me Jason Zucker, who got suspended for drilling Nick Cousins predatorially, making a beeline for him, a guy who's up against the glass, completely vulnerable, and he smokes him. That was 3 games. So again, explain to me, like the reality for me is, if you give him 5, if you give him 6, if you give him 10, then that, okay, you're like, okay, then that's fine. And everyone heard me on the show 2 days ago after we discussed it when it was relatively fresh. And I said, could I see it not being a suspension? Yeah, but most likely I anticipate that it'll be 1 or 2 games. Right. 2 games would be the maximum. But like, if you're going to tell me, and if you didn't see it, I tweeted it out yesterday or the day before on Icy Dave. But like, if you look at that Jason Zucker hit, or Zucker, but if you look at that hit on Nick Cousins, and then you look at the Brendan Dillon hit, and you compare those two, and you say those 2 hits both merited a 3-game suspension, that's the disconnect in the NHL. So it's, again, I don't have a problem with the Department of Player Safety suspending players for things they don't like, if there's a consistent message, which there isn't. And you're never going to get examples where you can say, well, this is the exact same thing as this,
right. But you can start this. Here's a good barometer.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a hockey play? Is it a hockey play?
Yeah, I mean,
wrong?
Look, to me, Brendan Dillon, they're sealing him along the wall. I mean, he's got it. Like, what's he supposed to do? Not try and hit him? Is he supposed to, you know what? Oh, he's 6 inches shorter than I am, so I'm going to back off and because I don't want to inadvertently hit him. But like, again, did he target? To me, Brendan Dillon tried to target him in the shoulder. And again, you got a guy who's shorter than the players hitting him, who's already skates hunched down. So Dillon's at a disadvantage in the sense that trying to hit him is going to be tougher. But what's he supposed to do? I mean, if he doesn't hit him, are we even playing hockey here anymore? Like, is this hockey? It's not. It's like, again, you're changing the rules. The rule is you're allowed to hit a guy. So Brendan Dillon goes for hit. Again, if you want to rule the hit suspendable, I'm okay with that. I don't really care. I mean, again, within reason. But for me to look at the Zucker hit or Zucker and compare it to the Dillon hit and say both those hits got 3 games. Right. Again, don't look at Gallagher and say 5 games, because again, you're right. That's egregious. Should have gotten more than 5. But that to me is where this Department of Player Safety becomes a joke, because you look at that and you go, okay, well, here's a guy who took, 15 glides and hit a guy into the boards completely from behind, versus right in the numbers into the glass, versus a guy who is trying to make a hockey play. And you gave them both the same suspension. That to me is a joke.
Start exactly what I was saying there. And I agree with you. Start with this question. Was there a hockey play being attempted? On Brendan Dillon's case, there was a hockey play being attempted. On Brendan Gallagher's play, there was no hockey play being attempted. Start with that, and then work your way backwards to figuring out what's appropriate in terms of a suspension. But to no one's surprise, the NHL Department of Player Safety continues to reek of incompetence. Let's wrap up tonight's post-game show.
Beep, beep.
Sorry.
Beep. you're wrapping it up. We didn't even get to do a Bell Media rant, Drew. Come on.
You know what?
It's not
I
a rant
said what
against, actually, you know what? It's not a rant against Bell Media. It's more a, remember back in the day it used to be beef and bouquet. Well, this is a bouquet. This is about how 3 years
cheers
of doing
and jeers.
Cheers and jeers. So that was an old IC thing, but actually no, that was the Wednesday night show, wasn't it? Cheers and jeers.
It was on the Saturday show.
Oh no, you're right. You're right. I remember you used to say, "Come with your cheers and jeers," and oftentimes Ezzy and I would not have cheers or jeers.
No,
but we would just end up jeering you, and then it would be fine.
Yeah, that's usually exactly how it went, to be honest.
But what I was going to say is, it's not about the negative about Bell Media, because who cares? And we just hope that everyone is able to bounce back and figure out some sort of new identity as we did. But I just, again, like I said, it's a testament to this format, which I love so much. And it makes doing this show, fantastic each and every time we do it. So, again, like I said, I'm not really, I just think it's, shitty by them for doing it. I didn't even know it was that Bell Let's Talk or whatever they call it, because I thought I muted it, or maybe they just didn't do it. But I didn't
downplayed it because they knew that they were going to fire people a week and a half later.
Yeah, but regardless, I just think it's hilarious that they do that to gain sympathy, and then 2 weeks later they just do a big dump. So hope for the best for all those who are going to be let go. I don't think there's anybody in Winnipeg, but probably nobody left in Winnipeg under the Bell branch. But regardless, like I said, use this as a positive, focus on the positive, which is a big thanks to all of you who join us each and every Saturday and after every Jets game. Smash that like button and make sure you're subscribing, because I was going to say we had a big jump in our subscribers. We're almost at 6,000. So let's get us there sooner rather than later. And with all of your help, we will. So keep it here at Illegal Curve, and we'll keep that content coming. And if we're not on, Drew, legalcurve.com has all your latest Jets and Moose news.
You bet it does.
The Tuck Duck Hardison comment.
Big thanks to our friends at Tough Duck for their continued support of the Illegal Curve post-game show. We're going to give tonight's Tough Duck hardest hitting comment to Dark Moon. Not sure if Dark Moon has won before, but we see Dark Moon chatting regularly.
Dark Moon definitely won a jersey at some point, Drew.
Okay, well, Dark Moon's going to win. Dark Moon's going to win a Tough Duck toque tonight. This team, the Jets, have too much talent to be lacking the way to be playing the way they are. It's humiliating and embarrassing at times. They really shouldn't be playing this bad with the team that they have. And I can't disagree. It's been a struggle for the Winnipeg Jets as of late, as Dark Moon articulated so very well in his or her, I'm not sure, their comment. In any event, Dark Moon, congratulations. Send me an email, drew@illegalcurve.com, or slide into my DMs on Twitter @ICDrew, and our friends at Tough Duck will hook you up with a toque that you will need right now, given I believe it's currently both raining, hailing, snowing. It's all sorts of different weather happening outside. It's a wintry mix, as they like to say. So unfortunately, we might have to pull out the shovels, or at least the scrapers, to get your windshields clean. But Dark Moon will have a Tough Duck toque in order to keep his noggin warm. Big thanks to Tough Duck for their continued support of the Illegal Curve post-game show. Big thanks to all of our sponsors, because they make this show, the Saturday show, the website, a possibility. That's our friends at Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Grid Park, where you can use code Illegal Curve to park for free. Download the Grid Park app. Linden Market Dental Center, Zappia Group Realty, Betway, Tough Duck, Boston Pizza, Seagram's, Rolly's Transfer, and Farmery Beer, home of Illegal Curve Lager. Support these fine businesses because of their continued support of Illegal Curve Hockey. Jets lose tonight 5-1. Reminder, Saturday morning, Illegal Curve Hockey,
4-1.
9 a.m. 4-1. Saturday evening, after the Jets and the Penguins, the Illegal Curve post-game show back here on our YouTube channel. If you haven't already done so, smash the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast, and leave us feedback. Preferably, we positive variety, but even if you have constructive criticism, we will take that as well. No, Dave's saying no constructive criticism whatsoever. Regardless, leave us that feedback. We want to hear what you have to say about this program.
Just good vibes, Drew. Just good vibes.
Just good vibes. Also, tell your friends, tell your family, the best place to be after each and every Winnipeg Jets game. And again, on Saturday mornings is the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Big thanks to all of you in the chat for doing a great job in keeping the conversation flowing. Big thanks to my colleague, Dave Manouk, for joining me tonight on the Illegal Curve post-game show. I am your host, Drew Mandel. Until Saturday morning, 9 a.m., we wish you good night and good luck. And thanks for watching the Illegal Curve post-game show.